Are you ready? Are you ready to share your story with the world? Well, Snails with No Shells is where you need to be. Available on all digital platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. Where did we go wrong? We were doing so Greetings, beautiful ones. I am Ms. BJ Martin, and this is Snails with No Shells. Leave that shell at the door. That's my only rule in this room. All right, let's get into it. I have a very special guest coming to the stage. He is amazing. I am so excited for you to meet him. That's enough. Let me bring him on out. Come on down. Yay, Ivan Colbert. How
Okay,
are
how you
you?
doing? I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I am amazing. I am. Thank you for being on Snails with No
I
Shells.
just want to say thank you for allowing me to be on here on your platform. What you're doing is an awesome thing. I'm happy to be a part of this. A part of the energy, and hopefully my words, my story, touches somebody or just informs somebody. But
Yes.
thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with I asked this question to everyone. Ivan, where were you born and raised? Where were you born and raised?
Okay. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, yes. The west side of Atlanta. Um, yeah, the west side of Atlanta. I was born and raised.
Okay.
Mom, dad. I had the whole traditional. Initially, both parents. I have three sisters. We stayed in a rough part of the city, but we made it work.
Okay, and now you are original. You are OG alien. Are you a Grady baby?
Absolutely, absolutely, Grady baby. But it is a flow. I was born,
Uh-huh.
yeah, born in Grady. The old school Atlanta, the Screaming Wheels, Sharon Showcase. So I'm kind of showing my age there.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, I went to Doug, Douglas Hyde, Turner. I went to Turner when they first turned it into a middle school. I also went to Tri Cities, open campus. Been all over the city.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, Grady baby. All right, all right. So what was it like growing up on the west side?
Well, anybody that know like the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, West Side was rough, man. It was a lot going on. Um, Toward the late '80s, that was when the thing was going on. I think the early '90s, late '80s, Miami Boys came up. It was violent. It was a rough. It was a rough situation. And as a kid, I didn't know everything that was going on, but I heard the gunshots. Late night. Charles Disco was right around the corner. I don't know if you remember Charles Disco. So,
Mhm.
and I've taken some excursions late at night on the bicycle, sneaking out, going to see a girl and whatnot, and riding past Charles and the police cars, and like I said, the gunfire. It was real. And now that I look back, I'm like, whoa, all that was going on, and we was right there, like in the middle of all that.
Mm, okay. So, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So that was crazy. So growing up, I don't feel like I had the traditional role models, and I think that's one of the things that I look back now is like, hey, I was really kind of deprived, but maybe I just didn't pay attention like I was supposed to. But my dad, he worked. He worked at Lockheed Martin, and he was a disciplinarian. I didn't want to be like that. I think, unfortunately, it this is a true story. I watched a lot of movies when I was younger, and one of the first movies I watched that I kind of remember was like Scarface. I saw Scarface, and
Mm.
I don't know. I had this dream that I was gonna go to the army and I was gonna learn how to be an assassin, and I wanted to be an assassin. That's, that's, that's
Okay.
crazy. So,
I mean,
that's
not really.
sad.
Well, not really.
Yeah,
I had a guest on the show that said she wanted to be an astronaut. I've had some interesting answers. Very
yeah.
interesting.
So I would have preferred being an astronaut. Now I'm artistic. I can draw. I think outside of that childish fantasy of like, hey, I'm gonna be an assassin like they be on TV. I did have some interest in possibly like doing cartoon, being a cartoonist and whatnot. But once I started getting in trouble, that kind of just went to the left, and I just
Mm.
got caught up in being bad for no reason. Is what I
Mm.
look at it as.
Okay. Okay. So when did like when like the real trouble? Like how old were you when that started?
So like the early skirmishes of a juvenile, it started off, and as a black kid growing up in the hood, I think we all, the ones that get in trouble, I think the pattern starts the same. You start off with the little petty stealing here and there, shoplifting. Like I started shoplifting out of Riches and Macy's, and the stealing the cars and stuff, and I think my first big charge when I was a juvenile was well no my first charge as an adult was the shoplifting. Then the second was a forgery. I had a forgery charge. Got a hold of some checks. Trying to cash some checks. And
Mm.
but my first major felony where I actually got some time, I was 19, and I got an armed robbery. I had like an armed robbery, kidnapping, aggravated assault, impersonating a police officer, um, possession of a firearm. It was like five felonies, so it was serious. And yeah, I was 18 when it happened, and I got sentenced when I was 19. And I ended up with I took a plea deal because the evidence was just so overwhelming, and I was young. I'm like, well, I can do this, and they gave me a deal of 15 years to do 10 to serve and have 5 years on probation.
Mm.
So I went into the prison system at night at 19 with a 10-year sentence. And back then, because I had the armed robbery, it was a mandatory 10-year sentence. So I went from being a kid, essentially, not really, having a dad like that because they got a divorce when I was like 15, to being in prison with a bunch of grown men. So
Mm.
I had to grow up fast.
Okay. So 19, and really, I mean 19. That's still a kid. I don't care what nobody say. That's my opinion. My opinion. 19 is still a kid. I look at my kids and I be like, oh my gosh, y'all. So how'd that feel like being 19, knowing like I'm doing 10 years, like without a shadow of a doubt.
So let me think back on this because this is 96 when I was sentenced, 1996. So here we go. I'll tell you how old I am. Um, I remember being sentenced. I remember my mom uh, throwing up in the courtroom, like she threw up, and I was just it was a shock as far as just when it set in. When she heard me take the plea, knew I was going to take this. Uh, Well, no, that was the first. That's the second time she threw up because I actually been in prison too. So the first time it was rough. Like I was numb, 19 years old. The last thing you think you're finna do is go do a 10-year sentence. And like I said, it wasn't juvenile no more. It was like I'm with grown men. I didn't go to they had a place called Alto, for younger offenders, for you to kind of transition into prison. But I went straight to prison, so I was scared. I ain't gonna lie, I was scared to death. I heard all the prison stories, all the stories you hear, and then the movies, the prison movies that I saw, people going to prison and being in prison. So, I was terrified, and I couldn't show it. So that's the thing too. So being in jail and going to prison is like you have to bottle up all those emotions, being scared, and ain't no crying out for mommy. It's a wrap. Like you with the big boys. So it's like I did the crime. You know, now I had to do the time. I had to suffer the consequences of it. So yeah.
That's interesting because we always hear that, most people that go to jail, they usually they always come from it's a single parent home. Like it's always the mom, but you have both your parents.
Well, so what happened? Like initially, both they were married. They
Mhm.
divorced when I was probably like 15, and unfortunately, once my pop left my mom, it wasn't one of those situations where he was trying to get us for the weekend or every other weekend and all that kind of stuff. It was like, no, we divorced. All right, them your kids. You know what I'm saying? Essentially, that's how we felt. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I don't remember a time when he even wanted to get me. So I kind of missed out on that father son thing. And to this day, I feel a little salty. I don't hold a grudge. I just feel like he could have did better. Well, I know he could have did better with me. He came to a point where he actually apologized. We had a talk about that. But yeah, so at 15 he gone, and my mom, she was dealing with being divorced and having 4 kids, and she still, like, back then my mom was still partying. She still wanted to go to the club. She looked young for her age. She didn't look like she had 4 kids. And so it was times when she was still partying. When it was time for us to go to school, she hadn't even came home yet.
Right.
And but she kept a house for us. You know what I'm saying? We had a roof over our head. We had nice clothes. We had decent clothes. Like we wasn't slumming, but she still was trying to, I guess, make up for the years of being married, and she really wasn't that happy. I don't know, but that kind of pushed me toward trying to find my place somewhere, and unfortunately, I
Mhm.
gravitated toward getting in trouble, and trying to see what's up in the streets.
Right. Okay, so 19 since the 10 years. Wow, that's blowing my mind. Wow, because I've never heard of that. Oh, so how was it? Like, so and you said you've been to
So
jail twice, right?
yeah,
Okay.
fortunately, well, prison. So I went to jail a couple times.
Okay, what's the difference between jail and prison for people that don't know?
Well, jail is when you still in the county jail, where they still down there. You able to go visit them, and you still going through the court proceedings and whatnot. And you haven't actually been sentenced. Now, once you get sentenced, the judge say, "Hey, you guilty," or you take a plea deal, and you actually get a sentence. Whatever the judge decides or whatever you agree to, then you leave the custody of the county, and now you're state, because you get, it's a whole transition process where once you get your time, you recommend it to the state. Now the state has custody of you, so they have to take you from that county jail to a state facility, which is the prisons.
Okay. So what was it like those 10 years? So you basically grew up in in prison. What was that like?
Uh, yeah, so I grew up in prison, and everybody prison experience is different. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
tell you that. And one of the key things that stuck out is it's a lot of us in prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of us. It's a lot of brown, and unlike on the street, or what we call the free world, um, we run the prison. Like, our color run the prison, and it's sad. Like, the place where you're held captive, that's the place where we reign at. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's a lot of gangs in prison. Uh, the violence, just the constant oppressiveness of negativity.
Hmm.
So, I take that bus ride going from the county jail early in the morning, going to Jackson, because that's where they do the diagnostic center for Georgia is Jackson. So if you're going to prison, most likely, no matter what county you in, you could be down in Savannah or whatever, you're gonna get shipped from that county jail to Jackson Diagnostic Center, which is in
Okay.
Jackson, Georgia. And so essentially, that's when they do all the assessments, mental health assessment, health assessments and all that stuff, and security assessments to decide what prison they want to send you to in Georgia. They have probably over 100 something prisons. I don't know the exact number on my phone here, but they decide where they want to send you to, and it's not going to be what's convenient for you and your family. They're going to send you to wherever they want to, wherever they have bed space at. So I was in Atlanta. I think the first prison I went to, being from Atlanta, the first prison I went to that first time was I want to say Dooley. I think I went to Dooley prison. I went to so many different prisons. I've been, you know, 4 or 5 miles away from Atlanta to,
Hmm.
I mean, 4 or 5 hours away from Atlanta to like, an hour away from Atlanta. So, uh,
Hmm.
they don't make it easy on you. You know, uh, it's a messed up situation. Hold on, let me get all. It's violent. It's oppressive. You turn into a number. You miss your family. You've had kids. You're gonna miss your kids. But the thing that you can do, or thing that I did to get through all of that, was kind of just shut everything out. So it's kind of like I built up this emotional wall that I'm still to this day trying to tear back down.
Hmm.
You walking around crying and, man, I miss my mom, I miss my sisters and all that. Cause then you looking like prey. And
Right.
sad to say, you got, dudes in there stabbing each other for something to eat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You got commissary in a locker. You got $20 worth of commissary, and you have somebody come in and try to rob you for commissary.
Hmm.
So you have to realize too where you're not. I wasn't in the place where the good boys was at. This
Right.
is the people that couldn't behave in society. Now we're gonna put all y'all in this environment, and it's not rehabilitation. So everybody's under that false impression that, oh, you finna go to prison to get rehabilitated. It's no, we're finna house you right here since you can't behave over here, and y'all do what y'all do. Y'all might kill each other, y'all might not. It's understaffed, so
Wow.
you're not gonna get officers that's gonna really put their lives in danger to save you. Somebody stab you, they're gonna wait till it calm down and wait till they get some help. But yeah.
Hmm. And so you don't have any children. You're.
So no, I don't have any kids. Uh, I stayed locked up 10 years that first time, from
Mhm.
1996 to 2006. I got out and got out in 2006, and I think what did me a disservice was that I didn't go through any transitional programs that first time that I got out. So
Okay.
2006, I got out of disciplinary segregation. I got out from being locked down 23 hours a day to
Mhm.
straight on the street. And I had been locked down probably like 3 years that last time. So I did a 10-year sentence. And out of the 10 years, I probably stayed locked down 5.5 of those years. I've been on high max. I was on high max. We got to
Hmm.
fight with some officers. Um, they put me on high max, and then I had disciplinary seg. So it's like if you want to obey, because I had an issue with authority. I ain't gonna lie, like I bucked authority. So they put you on high max. They got a place for you, and in the end of the day, like you're not gonna win. You know,
Right.
you're in their system, you're in their cage. So I can act out as much as I want to, but when it's all said and done, they gonna have me back in the cell.
Right.
And depending on, okay, if you keep acting out, guess what? We're not gonna let you out that cell no more.
Mhm.
So I've been in cells where I didn't come out, where it was a shower in there, and they didn't do yard call, and I'm just in that cell for weeks at a time. So you kind
Whew.
of know yourself. You kind of get to know yourself or dislike yourself. One of the two.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow.
Yeah.
So you
So
did your 10 years. So at this, so you were 29 now? So you got it in 19, you're
yes,
like
I
29. So you get
I
out
did my
and you,
10 years.
right, you didn't get any type of, like you said, anything, no transitional, no kind of helping out. They just said, okay, go ahead, you go back to where you were, basically.
Yeah, and I
And
want to
so,
say this is something that happens to a lot of people. So if any, I know a lot of us being, of color, we know family, friends, we have cousins or whatever that do time or this, or we know somebody that knows somebody or
right,
has somebody that's incarcerated. And a lot of times that's what happens. We don't get no preparation to re-enter society. So you take me away from, life for 10 years, and I'm in here with, the animals. We in here beating each other up, dudes stabbing each other for soups and honey buns, and just that whole negative environment. And you take me and then you put me back on the street. And that first time I got out, um, I think they gave me like a $35 check, and whatever I had left on my account, and the money that you get in prison. This is another misconception too. We don't get paid. Georgia do not pay their prisoners to work. So all the money that comes in to support prisons when we want the extra food, or we want to buy some headphones and all that, this is money loved ones send in to us.
okay.
So you work for free in Georgia. And
Mm,
it's one of the amendments that if you are a prisoner of the state, you can be used as a slave. I don't know the amendment, but you can quote me on this. One of the amendments where it's actually that's the only time slavery is legal. If you're a prisoner of the state, they don't have to pay you. So yeah, I got out with $35. And fortunately, I do have family. I got out that first time. I went and my mom had an apartment over in East, no, Riverdale. She was in Riverdale. I stayed over in Riverdale with her for 2 weeks.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm
Mm,
29, staying with my mom in this apartment. I didn't like it, so I ended up going to Griffin. My sister had a big house out in Griffin. She was like, "You can come down here."
mm,
And so I went down there, and I felt like that gave me a chance to meet my nieces and nephews that I didn't know. And it gave me the opportunity to kind of help her out because she was working a couple of different jobs. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and she kind of needs some help with the kids. So it was twofold. It worked out, but I didn't have any training. I did 10 years, and from 19 to 29, I didn't learn any skills. So I
Mm-hmm.
go from being a teenager to a grown man with no skills, but I had this record. So people doing background checks. I'm trying to get jobs. People,
Right.
oh Lord, a background check look horrible. I've seen it, and to have armed robberies, aggravated assaults, and kidnapping, it's like, nigga, we not finna hire you. I'm
Right.
sorry, sir. And I went through a lot of that those first couple of months, and I ended up getting a job, uh, working. Really wasn't satisfied with it. In the end, I ended up gravitating back to the street a little bit. Now I kind of straddled the fence. I didn't go full fledged like back into the street. I started selling a little weed. You know, I moved in with a girlfriend down in Griffin, in the area that she stayed in was a drug area. So I'm like, oh man, they're not really buying this weed, man. So next thing you know, now I'm selling crack. I was
Mm,
working, selling crack, and I wasn't trying to be, no kingpin. I was literally selling drugs just to support myself. You know what I mean? Just to pay the bills, make sure I have a little extra money and whatnot.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but once I made that transition from selling weed to crack. The devil just raised his head, and that's how I ended up getting a gun back in my hand. Now, I was a convicted felon. I'm not supposed to be selling drugs, and the last thing I'm definitely not supposed to have a gun. But
Mm.
I had somebody, came and brought a gun, and they wanted some dope for. Uh, Here, I got this gun. Let me get some dope. So now I'm a felon with a gun again, and yeah. And so I stayed out of for years, and I ended up shooting somebody in the leg. So I go from doing 10 years, get out a couple years. Now I'm a felon with a gun, and I'm shooting a guy in the leg, and I ended up back in prison.
Wow.
So yeah, so I take
Wow.
myself away from my family again. That's something else I wanna make mention.
Hmm.
Anybody that's watching this, one of the things that happen, and you understand this, like when you do a crime, you go to prison. It doesn't just affect you; it affects everybody that loves you, everybody that's dependent on you, the mothers, the wives, the daughters, the sons, the cousins. Like you take yourself out of everybody's life, and I had to realize that I had to grow up. Even then, I didn't realize it. It took the second time you going to prison to really embrace, like, hey, I'm the one that screwed up. You know what I mean? Like, I see why my sister not talking to me. I see why my sister was, because when I went back to prison, my sister didn't talk to me for a few
Mm.
years. She was mad at me because it was like, yo, you wasn't here for 10 years as my big brother, and then you go back to prison.
Mm. Hmm.
And at first I have, man, my little sister ain't talking to me, man. Oh man, whatever, man. And I was mad at everybody else, but as I did some self searching, some soul searching and whatnot, and grew up a little bit, I realized like, yo, I failed everybody. You know what I mean? I took myself out of everybody's life, and they mad at me for that, and they was right for being mad at me for that.
Right. You became accountable for your actions. Right.
Absolutely, that's the
Accountability.
word. That's the word. So
Mm.
to kind of sum it up, I shot a guy in the leg. This time I went to trial. I went to trial. Actually, I got an attorney. Trial screwed me. End of it, I ended up getting found guilty. Um, the guy that I shot, he said I robbed him. I don't know. I'm just be honest. I did. I robbed the dude for some drugs.
Hmm.
Uh, and as I was leaving, he pointed a gun at me, and I shot him in the leg. As I
Okay.
opened the door to run out, I don't know if this is karma or what, but it was a police officer already in the vicinity. So he heard the gunshots, and as soon as I opened the door, I heard freeze.
Just my imagination, or is it just insanity?